Hello, everyone. My name is Coryn Hardison. Some of you may already know me, but for those of you who don't, I'm currently the Community Archivist at CHSSC. So my role primarily involves the management of the collections, both physical and digital, that we hold in our archives. On one hand, this of course means the preservation and ensuring that these records last a long time, making sure that they're kept safe and organized. But another one of my roles and a central part of CHSSC's overall mission is to make our records accessible to anyone and to help show people both within and outside of the community that the histories that we collect are valuable and worth sharing. One of the ways that we strive to do that, especially these past few years, is through the creation of online exhibits. And these exhibits showcase the various projects that CHSSC has taken part in that help make these histories known. These exhibits are carefully researched, they are curated, and they're all published online on a digital platform so that we could share the knowledge that we collect and preserve on a more widespread level. The best part of that is anyone can access these online exhibits simply by visiting CHSSC's website. So we thought we would take some time today to show you just how you could do that, to introduce you to some of the online exhibits that we have, and to give you the opportunity to see the collections that we've put up there. So to do that, I will very quickly, let me share my screen. Okay. Okay. So hopefully everyone can see this. As you can see, this is our homepage. You might be familiar with it. But I specifically want to take some time to introduce you to our online exhibit section. So obviously there's a lot of stuff that we have related to the activities that CHSSC has taken part in. And just to kind of make it a little bit easier, just so you can see what we have, I'm just going to scroll down here and show you the online exhibit section. So if you scroll down to online exhibits and click view exhibits, you could see our very beautiful array of the types of exhibits that we have up here. So for this event, we're just going to go through 4 of them, but I definitely encourage you to come to the website on your own and explore what we have, because there is a lot and it's really cool. So first, we are going to turn to our Chinatown Associations exhibit. And to go over that in more detail, I'm going to turn it over to Susie Ling. So Susie, if you are there.
Thank you, Corinne. And it's a real honor to introduce this exciting project that we did called Chinatown Associations, Anchors of Our Community. Big thanks to the Louis Foundation, who allowed a team of us, Sue Ellen, Munson, Eugene, Susan, me, and Chelsea Liu, to hustle and deep dive into the CCBA, or Zhonghua, or the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association. As many of you already know, the Chinese Six Companies was established in San Francisco in 1854. When our pioneer population grew, it became very limiting to call it just the Six Companies, especially when there were 7 companies that were members. So the name in 1882 changed to CCBA, or Zhonghua in Chinese. And it was a conglomerate. In Los Angeles, the conglomerate was actually called Weiliang and was housed in the Garnier Building on Los Angeles Street. Los Angeles finally adopted the name CCBA as late as 1910. In 1952, the 925 North Broadway address was opened, and today CCBA houses 27 district and family associations. Hey, we only focused on 7. But let me introduce the 7 that we did. The Longcontini Family Association was established as early as 1870 on Ferguson Street. And that's the Four Family Association. Now look at that beautiful mural they have in the back that Coryn is scrolling down. So the four families are the Lius, the Guangs, the Zhangs, and the Zhous, depending on what dialect you speak. The Wang Family Association was also established as early as 1870s. And in our interview with James Wang, he claims that 2/3 of the Chinese in Los Angeles before World War II were Wangs. The Kongqiao Association is the one that was established in 1889 with that drop-dead temple that you can see images of in this site. CACA, we interviewed Nolan Hong, who is, of course, the son of Y.C. Hong. The Li Family Association was established in 1935. The Fonglong Association, or the CITOs, was established in 1938. And the Ing Family Association, the baby of our group, was established as late as 1974. So what we did was write down their history, as Coryn is showing you, did some photographs, and very importantly, captioned the photographs with dates. We did the interviews, we put up the interviews, and we transcribed. And the transcription was hard because a lot of it was trilingual, and we had to get a team of Cantonese, Toisanese, and English, and we did it. We figured most of it out. So after all this work last summer and 2 summers ago, let me share some of the secrets. Number one, yes, there were tongs, especially before the 1940s, when Chinatown was more or less outside the purview of LAPD. The Tongs and the Family Association had overlapping relationships. And yes, things got pretty rough back then. But to be honest, none of our interviewees were alive during the time, so it's all hearsay. Number 2 secret. The family associations and the CCBA are all part of national and international conglomerates, but all the LA chapters are independent, still very loyal to their brethren in other cities. Most have biannual conventions. Most of the associations have very, very complex constitutions. This tradition lends them a lot of stability, but to be honest, also makes it difficult for them to change. Some of the associations are still fraternal, that is, no female members. Each association has internal debates on how to maintain stability, but also encourage innovation in young people. Number 3, secret. Susan and I had a wonderful time going into the Four Families Associations. They had to let us in from the back door, which I thought was fun. And then upstairs, there was folk dancing practice. And then within seconds, that switched to mahjong games. They have spectacular art pieces, including a large mural that Coryn had shown us, and of the four blood brothers. I definitely could spend a great day just hanging out and seeing all these activities. Oh yeah, except I'm not a Liu or a Quan or a Zhang or a Zhou. Secret number 4. Our team was very impressed. The family and district associations continue to thrive because of the dedication of its leadership. Most everyone we interviewed said they got roped in, and they would rather not. Nobody of the leadership is making $1 million doing what they do, but they help the families, la familia. We applaud their commitment to serve. And that is the end of my report. Thanks a lot, Coryn.
Thank you so much, Susie. Yeah, this is such an amazing exhibit. There is so much information here, from photos to interviews to all of the very carefully written information. So yeah, anyone, if you have the time, please feel free to check out this absolutely rich exhibit. So from there, I'm going to go back to our online exhibit section. Back to our homepage, back to online exhibits. And our next exhibit that we are going to talk about is the LA Chinatown Virtual Walking Tour. And to help us out with that, this is a very lovely story map created by Riona Tsai, who is currently our UCLA intern. And to talk more about the exhibit itself, I'm going to turn it over to Susan Dixon.
I'm Susan Dixon, and I'm currently the secretary of the Historical Society. And as we said before, a lot of the grants that we get, we use them to make these exhibits. And this particular grant that funded this was from the Society of Architectural Historians. This is one when we wrote for the grant. It was one thing, and then life changed with COVID. Our original concept was going to be that we were going to bring students from disadvantaged neighborhoods into Chinatown, give them a walking tour, and tell them about some of the architecture and the landscape in Chinatown and how the cultures mix and what we could see. So after a few months of shutdown, we had to decide what to do. And so we decided to make an online exhibit and make it educational for everyone. So if you see, let's just scroll down. This is called a story map format. And so let's go down first and let's see. So you have maps within the story map, and you see the 5 Chinatowns. But I want to just read that last paragraph because it really does talk about the architecture in Chinatown. Chinatown is a multicultural area, and the architecture mixes Chinese and Western American styles. This community has changed a lot over the years and continues to change now. So this exhibit is really 2 years old, and you can even see that some of the things that's showcased later on when we start talking about the buildings, you can see that they've either changed owners or they're closed. So we start off with some of the history to show the kids. Now, these are all having to do with the opening of Chinatown, a new Chinatown in 1938. So let's look at what these little eyes are. So that gives personal information. Here, just what it is, what it was done, but we also have to give credit to the different people and organizations that we got it through, because we know that there's a very large Suhu exhibit that's part of the Huntington collection. Y.C. Hong gave a number, and so did Peter Suhu. So they have some of those, but you can see these different ones. Now see, there's that arrow on the side. So that means you can scroll to the side and see some of the other pictures that are totally about this different event. Okay, I want you to come back to this, so I'm not telling everything. Let's scroll on down. Okay, so educationally, you have this image. And so for higher level kids, you can talk about the different parts of building structure, so we had blanks so that they could do it. There's also, if you look down, there's more for the higher level kids. Now we're going to Chinatown architecture. So once again, we have more architectural features that we could discuss. And let's click on this building, the one right there, so that you can see if, as a teacher of young ones, we actually always did picture reading. So this is a perfect example of the old and the new side by side, and quite different in architecture. And depends on what kind of deep dive you want to do with the kids, but that's a possibility. Let's move on down. And then it gets to some of the things that are just about the community. So you talk about on some of the buildings, the different kinds of animals. Like if you go in Central Plaza, this is part of the roof, and you could see what the meanings of those particular are. And then in some of the images that we'll see, you would see the Chinese mythical creatures, and you can have, you can look them up and, work with them even for yourself to learn some of these. They were new to me. Now, color is the easiest for the young people to get. So you see an example on the left of the many different colors, and you could say, why would they have chosen that? So let's keep on going down. All right. So some of the ornamentation. So, of course, Central Plaza, they have, and down on Broadway, they often have the lanterns. Keep on going down. Okay. Even the gourds. Neon is mainly Central Plaza. But then if it's architectural design, you're also going to be thinking of landscape. So in Central Plaza, you can see the garden going on down. Sometimes later, if you go through Chinatown, you can see the ginkgo trees like this that turn yellow in autumn, quite beautiful. Going on down. Okay, learning activities. So let's show how this works with the arrows. So this is a compare and contrast, and you could get kids in groups to discuss what they see, discuss how it's changed, and a little bit lower we even have certain questions. Now, after you've done the whole thing maybe, and the kids learn about Chinatown, this is higher level, but you can compare what the 1938 image was on their flyer advertising the opening of New Chinatown. And then you start thinking in terms of, you can do this at any level. What do you remember when you're designing? Who's it for? What kind of pictures show it the best? And how can you make it appeal to everyone? So let's go on down. All right, the interactive map. So this part was very ambitious. So you can see the 59 locations, let's freeze it there, the 59 different locations that are mapped here. So when you see on the left these little thumbnail, there, if you wanted to know, maybe you're someplace, you can go back and let's not go down yet. No. All right, so that you could see some of these others. Like let's just look. We're going to look at like 5 of them so that you can see the difference. Let's start with the first one with the Chinatown Gateway. So you see on the entrance on Broadway, you can tell what it is. So we do have in this architectural design. So we're going to have art, we're going to have sculpture, and you can see this Chinatown Gateway Monument, or I've always heard it, the Dragon Gate, but we have the when and the who designed it. So let's go back to the others. And there's information there. So Chinatown is full of, you don't even need to look at it, but the 2 differences between the Cathay Manor senior apartments and the Ja apartments that are just right across the street from each other, it's interesting, how things have changed during the year. There are quite a few in terms of, So the center, the main thing there was the green roof. But we already talked about the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association, but let's look at it again, where it is, and who the designer was. and you can talk about what elements on that one that you see. It gives a little bit of the history. So let's go back and see a couple of others. So let's see, going down. See, some things have changed when we talk because like the Chinatown Service Center is actually the focus has moved, and so it's not there. Let's look at the Grandview Garden sign. So some things, Grandview Garden didn't just close, it's gone. However, if you're everything you ever wanted to know about Grandview Gardens, we have a wonderful exhibit that was developed. It was our second year that we ever did it, so please. But this one, the architect was famous, and so it's something. But the sign itself is considered historic, and so although the building structure itself was torn down in the 90s, this remains. Let's go back. So then maybe we all should know. I mean, we see these things that we know. Historic, the Phoenix Bakery wasn't that Phoenix Bakery wasn't originally there. It was actually in Central Plaza, but they were doing so well. But we show that because Tyrus Wong was the one who designed their logo. And if you go back for public art, you see the Tyrus Wong mural. Let's see, I'm not sure exactly where it is, but there it is. Okay. So you can see that it was kind of redone, so the colors are not the original concept. I've only seen this version of it, but it was not originally that. Okay, let's go back to and I'll do one or two more. Okay, so let's go to Castelar School. We'll go down to the sign of Castelar School. Okay, there it is. Okay, so several of these pictures have to do with Castelar School, which was founded in 1882. And there's my class dancing. So that's the old part. This is the newer part of Castelar. But then right next to it, let's go back. It are some of the images that, let's go. No, back to next to Castelar. Get out of this one. And then you see the Leo Politi Castelar mural. And so he wrote the books and he did the and he also did paintings of Chinatown, a lot of Chinatown. So there's a lot to see. If they're 59, you'll see that some of them are kind of sparse, but we were kind of constrained by finances and time. So, it's the kind of thing that it's not fixed in space. We can definitely, with more funding, go back because I have to thank Marge Chun-Hoon, who's the wife of Bill Chun-Hoon, the former principal of Castelar School. She gave us money so that we made a book that is a training manual that Eugene Moy does for training some of our walking tours. So if you're interested and you know that there's a resource, Gene's always looking for new people. So with that, I will hand it over to Eugene. So I need to.
All right. Thank you, Susan. Is my audio coming through?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I apologize to everybody for having technical difficulties, but I think you just heard in a very rapid fire and condensed form something that we're very proud of, our virtual walking tour. One thing I want to add to Susan's comments is that what we have been doing live in person, is to help both young people and adults learn the urban vocabulary, the street vocabulary of Chinatown. And so when we walk people through, we ask questions. What does this green tile roof mean? Well, it represents a bamboo forest. What does the color red signify? Whether it's health and prosperity. And so we really try to encourage our students who walk with us to learn that urban vocabulary. This virtual walking tour does a lot of the same thing, and it provides many images, and it has a lot of detail on architecture and design. And I think we couldn't cover it in the few minutes that we're able to provide you today. But let me move on to my subject. Who is operating the screen?
I am. I'm trying to find your name so I can make your co-host.
Okay. Because I've been having so much trouble, I thought it would be better if somebody else just.
Okay. Actually, Coryn has been doing a marvelous job, so why don't we let her continue?
Yeah, Coryn, why don't you, zip over to. That's why we hired you. We want talented people. And by the way, and hi, Andy, I see you on the screen too. Andy and Coryn are both MLIS graduates, Master in Library and Information Science. And we're really proud of the fact that we have had this long relationship with some talented archival professionals now, I should say, since they're graduates and are in the workplace. So we're really fortunate to have had the benefit of some really skilled people in getting our collections organized. And I know Andy spent a lot of time cleaning some of the audio recordings, the records that we have. And one day we're going to share some of that with you. Anyway, thank you, Coryn. So we're on the landing page for the 10th annual Yosemite Sing Peak pilgrimage. The 10th pilgrimage was actually in 2022. We started, and when you scroll down there, you'll see some text that describes how we got started. It talks about Yen Yen Chan and Jack Shu being the early organizers. But one thing we should mention is that one of our members, Tennyson Kwok, actually was the first to hear Yen Yen up in Yosemite, and then through his Dorsey High School classmate, who was the brother of Jack Shu, we ended up with some people who could really, or who really had some great ideas on going the next step, going to the next level. That was, not only did we hear a lecture from Yen Yen Chan a few years ago, but now Jack and Yen Yen really started planning a trip to Yosemite for us. So I'm not going to talk too much about the genesis of this project, but let's just, Coryn, let's just scroll down to the itinerary that we planned for 2022. The basic concept was that we would camp or stay overnight for several nights in Yosemite or adjacent to Yosemite. And we would, from those starting points, move to a whole itinerary of 3 or 4 stops where we would take hikes. I just hold that there, Coryn. So you can see that we typically would start on a Thursday night when we all would arrive, and we would arrive at the campground or at cabins that were booked for this. The cabins are not, well, at least in the Wawona area that we organized, were not primitive. They were actually fairly nice resort type of houses that we ended up divvying up among, that could accommodate 8, 9, 10 people. Frequently, these houses would have 3 or 4 bedrooms with multiple bathrooms. So it was really a comfortable place to be as a starting point or launching point for our actual hikes. When we first started in 2012, it was we had our base camp at the uh, the cabin complex in Wawona. Wawona is sort of a community at the south end of Yosemite National Park. However, in the year 2022, there were forest fires out in the area to the west, and the smoke was being blown into Yosemite. So even though we had started the uh, organizational process in December of 2021, by June and July of 2022, we were aware of the fires, and we were very concerned about how we were going to deal with whether we would continue or we would cancel. So I believe it was Jack and one of the other hikers in our group, planners in our group, who had the idea. Well, let's make our base camp in outside of Yosemite, but at the northeast end, at a community that's just outside the east entrance. And we did that in maybe just 2 weeks before our scheduled trip. We already had an itinerary, we had everything planned, but the fires just would not quit. So anyway, we ended up moving to Lee Vining and got ourselves a new community center to work from to as a base, sort of a base, and then we rented hotels and motels in the area. Anyway, from Lee Vining, we could then actually have quicker access to the Tioga Road area, where many of our more interesting hikes have been. And it's also a higher altitude location that helps us get to some of our more historic places. For example, you can see on Friday at 1 p.m. we would go see a lake. We would go see the vantage point, one of the vantage points of the Yosemite Valley. But let's go down to Saturday. Okay. So we went to Olmsted Point, a viewpoint, and then we went from there to the May Lake parking lot, or at least the parking lot for the trail to May Lake. But in that parking lot is the location of the end point of the historic Tioga Sierra Wagon Road. Let's just scroll down and let's just see some photos. I think everyone wants to see that rather than some text here. I think we just keep going. I think some of the photos show up. Yeah, why don't we click on Olmsted Point? And Olmsted Point is really from a vantage point above Yosemite Valley. And from there, now, that's people, but let's go down to the next one. You can go down and see images that you see in picture books that you couldn't see. Actually, no, my apologies. This image, and excuse me I did plan this, but I've been so frustrated by some of my tech challenges that I couldn't do this the right way. But from the parking lot to May Lake, we hiked actually, it was only 3/4 of a mile up and maybe a couple of hundred, 200 or 300 feet in elevation gain. But it seemed like it was endless. It took an hour and something to get there. So it's a warm hike from the May Lake parking lot to the actual May Lake itself. And then at the end of a warm and sweaty hike, you see this beautiful crystal clear lake and crystal blue skies. And it's just a terrific uh, reward for hiking and huffing and puffing all the way up. So, so this is one of our what we call a easy to moderate hike, maybe a moderate hike. It's maybe not quite easy, but uh, if when we plan our trip this year, I think May Lake always seems to be a high point. Uh, but just at the parking lot, though, is the end point. And I don't think there's an image or a sign that shows it, but let's just go down here. Well, uh, let's just back up, Corinne, to Yosemite Valley and just enlarge that. So on another day, would take a trip. Typically on all of our trips, we spend time in the Tioga Pass area, which is the northern portion of Yosemite. Then we also spend a day in the central portion of Yosemite, which is the Yosemite Valley, where well-known hotels and lodges are. The Yosemite Visitor Center is located. It was also the location of the earliest hotel facilities and camping facilities. So what we're looking at is Yosemite Falls, if you could see that in the center of the screen there. And somebody correct me if I'm mistaken, but there are a number of waterfalls you can really see. Bridal Veil is further to the left, and you can't see it, but the grassy area in the foreground was really the site of the first hotel, the Sentinel Hotel, in which early Chinese were involved. And by the way, I guess I've been neglected to mention that our whole purpose of going to Yosemite was really to see the work that early Chinese accomplished in Yosemite. They built the Great Sierra Wagon Road, which I mentioned a moment ago, up near the present-day Tioga Pass. They also helped grade some of the land and help build the hotels that were early tourist resorts. Early Chinese worked as cooks and laundry people in these in these tourist facilities. So our early Chinese from the 1870s and 1880s on were very much involved. And Corinne has prompted me to one of the next sites that we definitely have made a point of celebrating, and that is the Chinese Laundry building that is maybe 100 yards behind the Wawona Hotel. The Wawona Hotel, of course, is well known, and it's a famous place, and people from all over the world come to visit the hotel. It's a resort hotel, and it has great rooms and a dining room. But we also know that the early operators of the Wawona Hotel hired Chinese to work, whether cooking in the kitchen or acting as household help, growing vegetables in the vegetable garden, which were used in the kitchen, and then to clean the linens and the tablecloths was a crew of Chinese workers, and that crew of Chinese workers. And this was accomplished. Yeah, yeah. Is there a question? Yeah, yeah. Is there a question? Okay. What's your question? Okay. What's your question? Okay, I'm just hearing an echo of myself, maybe. Okay, let me go on. Anyway, this building had originally been used as a laundry building, but then in later years, as the Pioneer Village was developed and as the Exclusion Act, the Chinese Exclusion Acts, I should say, plural, forced many Chinese to basically leave. They might have headed back home. Maybe they spent their 20 or 30 years here and decided to head back home. But the laundry building was abandoned. And later, when Yosemite management developed the Pioneer Village, this building was neglected. It became a storage building for a horse-drawn wagon and some other equipment. And so basically, it was sort of shuttered. It was not part of the public offerings. But in the meantime, the Pioneer Village had a barn, and it was the headquarters cabin for the head administrator for Yosemite, and this was forgotten. One day, though, as part of our touring of the area, maybe after visiting the Wawona Hotel and looking around at the grounds, one of the interpretive specialists pointed out, well, this building was originally the laundry building. So our group of people who visited, and generally when we have our pilgrimages in Yosemite, we generally have somewhere between 40, 50, and 60, even 70, 75 people. So we've had some large contingents of visitors, of participants. Well, when we saw this building, we became aware that this building had been ignored for decades, but actually had a Chinese history behind it. We asked, why not? Why can't we get this back open and restore this? And we put the question to Yosemite management. Yun Yan and Jack definitely did their best to negotiate for budget to restore and improve this long forgotten Chinese laundry building. And the reward came. And this is what one of the purposes of our pilgrimage has been, is to achieve recognition for our forgotten history. Well, the Yosemite management spent money to support the restoration of the building. A couple who actually lived in the Wawona area in a private cabin, Sandra Wong and Franklin Yi, who were retired, decided when they heard of the interest in restoring this building, donated $100,000 toward the restoration. And so really they were the people who really helped make it happen. So when you visit today, and I don't think we have any images of the interior, Coryn, do we? I don't think we have any images of the interior, but there are freestanding exhibit panels. There's a laundry ironing table. There's a cast iron stove, which was used to heat the irons. There are kettles, not kettles, but the iron buckets with heated water, where the heated water was used to clean the laundry. Anyway, let's just keep scrolling down. There are multiple parts to this, our Yosemite Sing Peak pilgrimage, and one of the goals is for those who like to hike and really are in good health and physically fit, can hike to the top of Sing Peak, which was named after Tai Sing. He was the camp cook who, in 1915, led what was called the Mather Mountain Party. A guy named Stephen Mather, who owned my gosh, I can't even think of the the soda. Oh, I can't. He was a businessman. Let's put it that way. And then he ended up with a sort of administrative position that he really thought it'd be great if we could because he had worked with Chinese workers in the borax beds. I just remembered Stephen Mather owned a borax mining company, and among the many workers in the borax beds uh, from Death Valley south into China Lake and Searles Lake, all of those areas, Chinese were the major workers. He thought he also knew of the many contributions of the Chinese, not only in the deserts, but in the mountains and the valleys of California. And I'm probably past my allotted time, but let me just quickly mention that in around 1899, a mountain peak at the southern boundary of Yosemite National Park was named after Tai Sing, who was the camp cook who fed the Mather Mountain Party. And the following year, the National Park Service was actually created to manage the national parks such as Yosemite or Yellowstone and Glacier and others. So, so Tai Sing was an important person. Sing Peak was named after him, and a group of people every year since 2012 have been hiking, backpacking to the top of Sing Peak, which is at 10,552 feet above sea level. Anyway, so that's what that image before was. Below is just a map, and I think, Coryn, I think you scroll down to couple of more things. This is our base camp. This is the Lee Vining community room, but it had a fully equipped kitchen. And let's keep scrolling on the right, Coryn. And one of the things that enabled us to do was, and we'll just keep scrolling, we visited places like Tuolumne Meadows, we visited the Soda Springs, we saw a lot of nature, a lot of landscape. We saw plants, we saw critters, we saw bugs, but we walked across bridges. That was Tai Sing, but just keep going. And the figure on the left, that's Tai Sing right there. He was the camp cook for the Mather Mountain Party. Let's keep scrolling down, because you all can visit this on your own and really see. I'm just kind of providing a quick overview. There are just so many sites that we're able to see with the fact that we have planning leadership. We have Ranger Yen Yen Chan, we have Jack Shu, we have other experienced hikers who have led us to mining sites. We've gone up to, that's Bennetville on the left. What you're seeing are some historic buildings. And most of the hiking is relative between easy to moderate. So one fun thing we did, okay, so let's hold on for a second here, Coryn. One fun thing that we did at Lee Vining was to hold a hot dog social. Some of the leadership in that year, 2022, were Bak Chong and his wife, who thought, well, and they're great cooks to begin with, but they thought, let's have a hot dog social. And that's what we did. We had, I think we had s'mores also in addition to the hot dog social. Let's keep scrolling now, Coryn. I'm talking too long. But one of the fun aspects of our pilgrimages is really the fact that it's a fellowship. We can talk and and eat. We have food, we cook, we watch people, and keep scrolling. In 2022, we had two special guest speakers. One was, and just keep going. We'll just go through pretty quickly because I'm taking too long. We'll look for Frank. Yeah, so hang on, back up. So here's the food. Well, here. So that's part of the spread. We had a spread. We also had a demonstration by let's see. We had a demonstration of cooking broccoli, chicken, and well, that's David Suhu. That's who I wanted to find. So David showed us how to, and I have the recipe here on how to do broccoli chicken with oyster sauce. And it all takes 25 minutes or so, and a 14-inch wok. So so when you come on our pilgrimages, you get to do fun things. We watch a cooking demonstration. We also heard, and just keep scrolling, and we had lots of food because we also have a potluck dinner. So each of us could go back to either to our hotel motel room or in the community kitchen and prepare food. This is before eating, but just keep going. But and the vista is really overlooking Mono Lake in the background. So we had lots of food to eat. Grace and Ricky Leo, by the way, took most of these images, and Ricky organized this slideshow that you see before you. And that's Ranger Yen Yen Chan, who is retiring. So, and she had, she looks very young, and she is young, but has some other horizons to conquer. Anyway, let's keep scrolling down, Coryn. I'll try to wrap this up. There should be an image of Rich Lowe talking, speaking, but Rich Lowe is a children's book illustrator. And let's see if there's anything else. This is just a very quick run through, and I've probably taken too long. Here's one of our hikes, a backpack hikes to the top of Sing Peak, and this is what people do. So those of you who like to camp and backpack, this is what we do. I think that there's not much more. Let's scroll down a little bit, Coryn, and let's see. I think, is that it? Yeah, maybe that is it. So look on our website, watch our website for the announcement of our upcoming pilgrimage to Yosemite. From my early discussions with Yen Yen Chan and with Jack Shu, it probably will be in early October. Part of the delay has been that there's been a little bit of uncertainty as to Yosemite and other national parks and what the new management may be allowing or permitting. There is a new superintendent for Yosemite. So, as many of you are aware, a lot of our national parks and other federal agencies have gone through some management, budgetary and budgetary, let's say, adjustments due to some new policy directives. So what we don't know for sure is how much the Yosemite administrative staff can help us. So that's still something to be worked out. We're trying to make sure that the laundry building can be open and available. There'll be a ranger there to open up for us when we get there. So those are the details to be worked on. Anyway, thank you for allowing me to take so much of your time. And thank you, Coryn, for helping me. And I turn over to the next person, who would be
Andy.
Yes, yeah. So I could actually turn it over since
okay.
this next section actually isn't part of our online exhibit. So I will stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn it over to Andy, who is going to talk about the Southern California Chinese American Oral History Project.
Cool. Thanks, Corinne. Yeah, so I'm going to take you all to our digital archives, which I was originally brought on to work on many years ago. So to get there on the homepage, you can either click right here under the main banner, Digital Archives, or you can scroll down. I know this section with all the tiles gets rearranged every once in a while, but you could also look for Digital Archive, click right there. And so here is the homepage of the archives. It's sorry if it's just text. It's not super exciting, but you can see all of the collections that we have in our physical archives. We've taken a lot of photos, documents and stuff and scanned them so you can kind of peruse them, at your leisure. The Some of the records that Eugene mentioned, you can actually listen to at the with this link at the bottom of the page, which yeah, digi we got some of our records digitized with California Revealed, but today I'm gonna show you the Southern California Chinese American Oral History Project, which took which was funded by many grants, and I worked on this for a long time, along with several of our UCLA interns over the years. To
We lost your share screen.
Oh,
No.
does everyone see it all right?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So where was I? Yeah, so there are, you know, in the collection, there's 400 tapes worth of oral history interviews. Um, Transcripts were made for all of these interviews. You can read those on here as well. And there's also about 1,600 photographs that some of the interviewees shared with CHSSC during that time that we have digitized and that you can look at on this site. So on this front page, you can see a picture of Eugene actually scanning some of these photos back in 1980. So when you click on one of these photos, you'll get a lot of information about the photo, such as, the date, kind of who was in the photo, tags about the subject. So if we were here looking at this picture of Eugene, we could click Eugene Moy here, and we have all of the other pictures of Eugene that we can look at.
Yeah, that other person was Munson Kwok, and
Yes.
I think we were both about 12 years old back then in 1980.
You guys look the same, just a little bit more hair. So yeah, so there's tons of ways to navigate this site. If you wanted to look for something specific, you can just use the search bar. So if I wanted to find some pictures of Old Chinatown, you can just search for Old Chinatown and have 666 results of just photos. And so you can click through all of these. Or you can actually, if you don't really know what you want to look at, you can kind of explore with the Browse tab up here. And so we've kind of organized all of these photos by location, uh, and other people, other keywords. So if we wanted to look at just photos of East Adams, oh, there's no pictures. But if we click on New Chinatown here, we have all of these images that, were either in New Chinatown or of New Chinatown. But I guess the main draw of this is the oral histories. So to access that, we can click on the interviewees tab up here. And here we have a list of everyone that was interviewed as part of this project, with Chinese names if they were available. So we can click on any one of these. Some of the interviews are in Chinese, some of them are in English. But let's try to get something in English. So let's get one with pictures. Right. So we have Mei Suhu Wong. On this page, you can see everything that is related to their contributions on one page. It'll show a couple of photos if they have photos that they shared. You could also see all of the photos that they shared if you click that button up here. And go back. You can look at the transcript of their interview. These are mostly summaries. So, you're not going to get kind of one-to-one transcription. Some of the Chinese interviews have been translated. So all of the transcripts are in English. And if you wanted to, search around for, a certain topic that they've talked about, you can search here. So, I've searched for CCBA, and you can see that they talk about it on tape 1, side A, kind of towards the end. And so let's see if we can find that. On the left-hand side, we have all of the tapes. So can we hear that?
What did people do with the money that they saved? Did they gamble?
In the olden days, they saved their money to go to China. But after the war, they know they can't go back, especially if it's communist China. So they all settled here. They're all buying homes.
Did some
Then
save
open-
money to send back to?
Oh, they
To
have
China.
relatives they would,
Mhm.
just to help them out. But in the olden days, they all saved money to go to China.
So when they saved money, did they put it in a bank or put the cash in a safe
I wouldn't
deposit
know.
box?
I don't know what they did with it, but I know they were saving money to go to China. The older people,
Yeah.
Well,
the younger generation never think of that.
Mhm.
an important
Left to
part,
go.
an important duty for many people who were here was to send money to support their families in China. As we all know, there were many reasons why people were migrated here back in the 19th and early 20th century. And part of it was to get away from political situation or famine and drought, or maybe finding opportunities to make a better life for themselves. So a lot of people really were here through their industry, through their industriousness, were able to send money back home to build a better home for themselves.
Yeah. All right. So that's kind of the basic layout of the site. I know, Eugene, you've had a lot of questions about how to use this, so I can probably answer them right here if you want.
Well, just for everyone, and by the way, I appreciate all the many dozens of people listening in today, but it's hard for me to over estimate the value of really what has been done by our archivists. I mean, for years we had audio tapes, for example, of the oral histories, which was really a massive project undertaken, led by Munson, Kwok, and Soel and Cheng, and then a whole team of other people who did some summary transcriptions. But now, what's been done in recent years is that in cooperation with UCLA and our archivists, we've been able to have the oral history tapes digitized. They're accessible. You could hear the audio. Before you could not. You had to go all the way to UCLA and listen to an old cassette tape. Now, everything's been digitized. You can hear it. It's cleaner. And the students, the archivists rather, have run the audio through a software called Trent. And now we get word for word transcriptions. So, and you correct me if I'm wrong, by the way, but we just have, and the fact that we can now search and access details. I mean, it was just a very valuable project that we did back in 78, 79, 1980. It's just there's an unbelievable amount of information that we collected on the early community, on people, on families, on individuals, the family associations. And I see Peter online here, even the Chinatown Service Center, too. All of the community organizations are mentioned, and we have a great index here that we can use to access.